2, 1.
We were going to the bingo parlor at the YMCA. Well, one thing led to another, and the instructions got all fouled up.
Lighten up, Francis.
Come, Watson. The game is afoot.
Afoot?
Beginning.
Well, then just say that.
Good evening. Welcome to the Steelers Sanctuary Podcast. I'm Leanne Lohman, joined tonight by Dave Ribeiro, Zach Franciscus, and David Korb. And Bob Quinn should be popping in here any minute to join us tonight. We appreciate all of you that are already in the comments and geared up. We have a lot of topics to talk about tonight, which is interesting considering, here we are in the middle of the off season and things are kind of, always kind of weird. We wanted to start out talking a little bit about some of the comments that were recently made by Ben Roethlisberger on his podcast. So I screenshot them so I could read them exactly, and then we can kind of talk about them. There was more than one thing he said that got some attention this week. So he talked about players in the Steelers, to kind of generalize for you, about feeling like as time went on, players were checked out. They weren't as dialed in as they had been before, maybe not taking things as seriously. He said the trend got progressively worse on teammates reaching for their phones before anything else, said Roethlisberger, where guys would come in at halftime and go right to their lockers and grab their phones and be looking at social media and things like that. Or as soon as the game was over, the first thing they did was go to their locker and check things. Not everybody, but it progressively got more and more. He added it would drive you nuts. All the linemen would always be together. You never saw those guys on phones, but you see the other guys. Instead of being with their group, they'd be in their locker on their phones. Unless you're looking at a film or a play call sheet or something like that, which you knew they weren't, it ended up getting worse and worse. And that would always drive me nuts. It made me think of that when you said the me instead of the team. Were you guys surprised when you heard that? I was a little surprised.
Were you really?
I was surprised it was so many people. Like, some people didn't surprise me. The O-line didn't surprise me at all. The group was so tight.
Yeah.
When Ben was there. That didn't surprise me at all. But I expected it from some people, but maybe not. He makes it sound like a pretty pervasive problem.
It's a new generation of players.
I was just going to say that.
Which is what, Big Poppy said in the comments.
And he's kind of been hinting at it he's been saying it on his podcast since the beginning that, hey, man, these players, man, I don't know if they're – remember Cam Hayward got mad at him for it, saying, oh, what do you mean these new players maybe aren't as focused as wanting to be Steelers? Well, now he's starting to bring out his receipts and say, hey, man, my last couple of years, you almost make it one. I almost wonder if that was why when the Steelers said, hey, that's kind of it. We really don't want you back. But then he kind of talked Rooney into it by taking a huge pay cut. When the rumors came up about San Francisco and maybe some other places where he could go, if it was just, you know what, man, I don't want to deal with, old man yelling at the sky. I don't want to deal with those kids. I'm done. I don't want to play this game anymore.
Yeah, I feel like it's what this kid. Go ahead, Zach.
What's the comparison to other locker rooms? That's the only thing I wish Ben would have said, because I want to see the comparison.
But how does he know
guys
for
who
sure?
haven't.
Yeah,
like guys in the Miami Dolphins locker room or Kansas City locker room, compared to like guys who were there 7 years ago with the way it is now. It's probably a lot different.
Patriots locker room under Bill Belichick.
Yeah, compared to
I sound like an old guy sitting on the porch yelling when I talk about kids these days and the amount of technology I don't know how to use. So I imagine it has to be different and frustrating for Ben, but I don't know if that's as much a problem as a lot of some of the other comments I know that he makes that we'll get to.
TJ said it's a bit of an old man yelling at the clouds. Did old Ben kind of straddle that like time period in the NFL between like 100%. The old era and the new era?
Yeah.
I get it. I wish we were back 10 years ago when it was, more about the team and less about all this other stuff. But man, if you have an experience at all managing young kids, it's the constant struggle to keep them off their phones. It's nearly impossible. This is the generation we're in, and I don't know if you can turn that back. I'm sure it's not just the Steelers. I'm sure it's every team in the league struggles with that.
Like it's your job though, and like I don't know about you guys, but I haven't really ever had a job where I can just sit on my phone. Do you know what I mean? Even now, an independent contractor. Do you know what I mean? I have to manage my own time, and I can't sit on my phone all day. If I do that, I'm not getting work done, which means I'm not getting paid. So, I mean, I don't know anybody who can just sit on their phone at work. And I feel like that should be the vibe in the locker room. Like when you're here, you're at work. And
the halftime thing is what was concerning, because I know that a lot of coaches have said the big myth in football is that you can change entire game plans and throw things out at halftime. Like, you can make certain minimal plans. So if you have a very small window of time where you can only make specific changes and people aren't tuned in, that would be after the game. I get it. I've always had a problem with requiring players to immediately wind down when you've asked them to go to a different level of humanity for 6
yeah.
like,
No, I almost
Richard Sherman interview, all of that. I had no problem with all of that, but halftime concerns me. Sorry, go ahead, Bob.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Zach. I was just saying I almost wonder if he was throwing the coaches under the bus a little bit too.
That's
saying,
what I thought.
He's been taking shots at Tomlin. He has.
And well, the assistant coaches, the coordinators. I mean, those are the guys letting them get away with this stuff. I mean, yeah, Tomlin is the head of the snake, but if the position coach
too, right? Like, don't they have some like, hey, man, you know?
Maybe then again, maybe Pat Myers should let the offensive linemen get on their phones. Maybe they'll improve.
Maybe.
All right, I want to ask you guys about this comment that Big Puffy made. He said it's only going to get worse with NIL and these kids coming in with money and they don't have any responsibility to any school. Chase money and leave if your school doesn't play you. You don't have to earn it. Do you think that is part of that?
Yes,
like, makes that worse?
It's a wonderful point. Yes.
I don't know if it's playing devil's advocate, but weirdly enough, I have a problem with it on a foundational level, but it's one of the few things that actually helps kids transition to what the NFL is actually like. Because one thing that I really dislike between college and the NFL is the amount of things that kids have to change about their fundamental game. You know, the 1 foot compared to 2 foot, when are you down, turnovers, all that kind of stuff. At least this, you know, when you get to the NFL, you already know it's a business. You already know it's not about loyalty. It's about money. You know, by the time you get there, you're ready. You probably had an agent for a little while. I'm not saying I like it. It's a small silver lining to it happening that I'm trying to find. That at least the kids don't get to the NFL and they're all of a sudden like, wait a second, I thought this was all about the team. And they get there and they know it's a business.
To me, it's just too much entitlement. They're entitled to too many things at a young age. Then you make them millionaires, whether they already are or not, before or after college. And you see how much they don't keep it in house anymore. They just start bitching about everything. It's like, bro, what are you doing? Like, shut the hell up. And it's not good. But here's my problem. Okay, go ahead. Here's my problem though. What's that saying? Like, you know, throwing rocks from glass houses or whatever. That's my thing with Ben. Ben was like not exactly the role model leader in that locker room. Like I hear him and I'm like, yeah, Ben, sounds good. What about you?
He was kind of a problem child, and then he turned into kind of a dick. And
that's my point. Like, I don't,
want anything to do with you.
Right. There was constant like issues and stuff with him off and on throughout his whole career. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I get that the kids are different from him, but in general, he was not exactly the best leader in that locker room ever. Like,
ever.
You know.
Well, just at a side point, but before I make a main point, but on Ben, I almost wonder because he started out, pretty good. Then he had the problems still kind of early in his career. Then maybe he felt like I had to shrink back a little bit, but then I almost wonder if the parts where he turned into calling out teammates and doing with what we know about Antonio Brown and some of the stuff going on behind the scenes, did he get to the point where he's like, the only way I can actually make a point to these guys, to AB, is to actually call him out in the media? So I almost wonder if he got passive aggressive because it was like, they ain't gonna listen to what I say. Maybe they'll listen to reporters if it's all over the media.
I hate that. I hope.
Yeah, I don't think that was a good strategy either way.
But it could have been. You never know. I don't know. Like I said,
I want to say this about the NIL point that it's scientifically proven that especially young men's brains aren't fully developed until they're 25, and that is the reason why you cannot rent a car until you're 25 because they know that men, in particular men, do not have impulse control fully developed until then. It's why
I feel
you look
attacked.
back now at yourself, and some of you
I don't hear
it's
you
a little
denying
bit
it.
longer.
Some of us, I was going to say, some of us a lot longer than
All the dumb shit you did when you were 20 or 21, and you think I would never do that now at 40, the stupid risk you took and things like that.
yeah.
So it's one of my issues with the NIL stuff. I don't have a problem with kids getting paid. If they're using their name and image and likeness and all of that, you
Right.
should benefit from that. But I don't know where that balance is between teaching them to manage that responsibly when, you know, a lot of these kids have come from situations where they didn't have this kind of money, you know.
Well, there should
money.
be a cap. There should be a cap of some sort or
I
something.
think they should
here.
have to invest a certain percentage
Something.
of it into some kind of a trust or something like that.
And you
So it's
can't
still their
transfer it
money.
every year. Every
Yeah,
year
It's tough.
being
Why
allowed to
single them
transfer
out when,
is
you know,
ridiculous.
if you're a lawyer or something else, there's no cap on your salary. If once you turn 18 and you can make a living, why are they different? I mean, these colleges have been, you know, bending them over for years and years, taking all the money and keeping it for themselves. And a lot of these kids can't even sign the autographs because they get in trouble. So it's a slippery slope. I mean, I'm with the players. Let them make the money. It's not fair that they don't.
I mean, it was so backwards before. Let's take Greg Anthony, who's a pretty famous example. Starts his own T-shirt company, is making good money, is on scholarship at UNLV, had to give up his basketball scholarship so he could keep his T-shirt company, and they still went after him, trying to get rid of him after he gave up the scholarship.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I was always for the players. Look, you know, do we love NIL? I don't love the transfer. I think they could get that down. I think they could tighten it up a little bit. But look, it's just a larger problem. It's not so much that they're soft or whatever. Everything is being boiled down to the simplest, easiest form. If you look at it back 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the NFL played a completely different game than college football. And then some successful college coaches ran pro systems in college, and their guys got successful. Well, now everybody in the pros is running a college system, and quarterbacks aren't allowed to audible. Terry Bradshaw called his own plays. They won't let Justin Fields change the routes at the line of scrimmage. So I think they've boiled it down, and it's kind of this one-read college offense has come to the pros, and that's why they want mobile quarterbacks, because most of these guys have to see it. If the read isn't there, they have to run. They can't sit there and scan and read a defense. Maybe 5 quarterbacks in the NFL can sit there and really go through progressions at this point. So when we say, hey, we want a guy like that, it doesn't matter because no coach is going to let him play like that.
I just think that we have to find some kind of limit on this, though. You can't let it go all the way
like
too
a
far.
happy medium somewhere.
Right.
Help these kids learn. Do you know what I mean? Like financial literacy should be something we're teaching kids anyways in high school, and we're not. And so, you know, then if you're not, when you hand these kids all this money, I think they're in the public eye, and you expect a little more from them than some kid who has a software startup or something in his basement, you know, and you expect a little more from them. And so when I see these kids get in trouble, you know, they're drag racing or they're drinking and driving or something like that, you know, it's the same stuff that other 22-year-olds do, you know, but they're not set to make millions of dollars and we're like the number 3 draft pick or whatever. Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it's unfair to the athletes to say they should have different expectations than somebody who creates an app. They're all young. They all do what they do. It ain't like the software engineer isn't going to run out and do something stupid either.
Right.
But he's not in front of TV.
But I think the difference is it doesn't affect the software engineer's future in the same level. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it might mess things up for him. But I mean, if you're in the NFL and you're a problem child before you even start playing because something happens to you, you know, or something like that, you're handed this huge amount of money and there's no one there to help you manage it. I just think for as much as the NFL makes off these kids, a service they should be providing to them is some way for them to help. It should be mandatory.
Yeah, I don't disagree with
to
that.
help them learn. And I don't think it should be limited to just them. I mean, I think we should be doing it for kids in college, frankly. I mean, some kids have parents that do that for them, but a lot of kids don't. And
yeah, for the record, I don't disagree with them getting some kind of compensation. I don't disagree with that at all. But we got to find some control with this. You can't give an inch, they take a mile. And I don't even mean
the
kids. I mean the colleges. Like,
and I know,
one second. Smaller schools can't compete now with big colleges. It's impossible. They're going to spend millions of dollars, and there's also going to be that these smaller schools will have no shot of competing. We just got on this big thing about college competition, but just in general, like for me, it's just they have to put some kind of control on this. And every year you can transfer is ridiculous. That's another thing. These kids are used to getting their way now any way they want, and they're rich already. And then you plug them into the NFL, where they're in front of the media 24/7. It's bad. It's all bad, and they got to find a way to control it. That's my whole point in this thing. But I do agree. They're making millions off these kids playing in front of everyone. The kids should get something. I agree.
And then for the most part, we talk about the top like 1 or 2% of the players, but for the most part, I think college players are getting smart. They understand that as a college player, you have a very, very small lifespan. If you get to the NFL, you actually average have a very small lifespan. And if you get really severely injured, the NFL is going to do everything possible to shrug you off. They're going to make sure they don't pay you. If they do pay you, it's going to be small amounts paid out. They were forced into paying the concussion stuff out. So, and a lot of times, if a player gets to the NFL, especially if they're from a background that isn't great, sometimes they're seen as the breadwinner for not just a family, but for extended relatives. And so that money, when we say that kid has a lot of money, that's a little simplistic as to what they could need it for medical bills for the rest of their life, depending on what they go through. They could need it for everything the NFL doesn't give them. They could need it for the family, whatever it is. But I think they're getting a little smart as to know that on average, I don't have a long time in this sport.
Yeah. I agree with Big Poppy about the NBA. Look, we could do this on college stuff forever, but I want to read Ben's second comment from Ben. And then there was a rebuttal to this comment made by Ryan Clark. Roethlisberger said, you have to evolve. You have to evolve as a team. You can't just assume that everybody wants to come play for the Steelers anymore like they used to. People used to want to come play for Pittsburgh because you had a chance every single year to win a Super Bowl. I used to joke that we'd be up, 3 or 4 points before the game even started. Then he said, Ryan Clark responded and said, all respect to Roethlisberger, great teammate, Hall of Fame, first ballot guy to me, but he's wrong because when you look at free agent signings in Pittsburgh, you think of names like James Ferrier, Jeff Hardings, Kevin Green, who's a Hall of Famer, and me. Ain't no way I should be one of the biggest free agent signings in the team's entire history. But I am because the free agency was not where the Steelers built their team. They built their team through the draft.
And apparently Ryan Clark hasn't paid attention to Pittsburgh drafts for the last 10 years.
But his time he did. I mean, I think that's.
No, he's right. They did build through the draft. It's true. They didn't make big free agent signings. I don't disagree.
We talked about that. They didn't use free agency until the last couple of years, really. That was like
the first part was. Oh, the first part was right as well, though. I'm just thinking back. I just kind of did a replay in my head of all the podcasts we've done. Every single time we talk about a player, we're like, well, maybe he wants to come play for Tomlin. Maybe Tomlin. Never once have we said, well, he's here to win a Super Bowl. Never once did we say, well, a player's coming in. It's all about Tomlin, or do they want to play for? And that just hit me like load of bricks right in the chest. That I was like, I was gonna try to come back at it. I'm like, I can't. Our podcast is proof that players don't come here to win a Super Bowl.
We have had some players that say they come here because winning tradition or whatever, or excellence as a franchise or whatever. But you're right, we do hear Tomlin a lot.
Yeah, and you can also say James Ferrier and Hardings, and that's all nice. Ryan Clark can say that, but we're dealing with Mason Cole. And Cole Holcomb, who's out for the season. Miles Jack, who I love Miles Jack as a player. Injuries
that would have been a decent free agent signing. No one could predict he would have gotten hurt like
that.
Actually, you could. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But anybody could have get hurt. I mean, that could be anybody.
But again, Omar Khan has this thing where he kind of ignores injury red flags, and it's bitten him in the ass more than once now. So, Cole Holcomb came relatively cheap because of the injury concerns.
Injury history.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, he's only played a full season twice out of 5 seasons.
Yeah.
Damn.
He's hurt a lot.
But what was the comment that was made about Darnell Washington about the way we played him, like we were afraid to take him out of the box? Or that they said that we kind of took his injury concerns on ourselves, and that was evident in the way we used him. So if we're going to take players with injury concerns, then you can't play them. It's a big risk aversion just because you put yourself in that position. So that because Darnell Washington, to me, not once showed that he was breakable. He was slow. He lumbered a bit, but so did Gronk.
But I think we talked about it. The way because he's so big, everyone goes for his legs because that's the only way to tackle him, and that's a concern because his knees are an issue. So,
but then don't draft or sign somebody that big. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have to balance that out because you're right. He's got some abilities to do some things other guys can't do when you're 7'4" or whatever he is. And you have to take advantage of that. And if he gets hurt, I'm not saying you intentionally put him in a position where you feel like he's going to get injured over and over again. But frankly, every guy that steps onto a football field puts themselves in a position where they're going to get injured over and over again. And that's what he signed up for. There's no reason to assume he's going to get injured more than anybody else.
No. And if you draft him, like you said, you have to use him.
Right.
I mean, you can't just, what are they waiting for?
Right.
And his knees, as bad as his knees were last year, because the reports were all out there that, hey, it looks like the guy can barely walk. He was smoother this year, and I think that's why he got more playing time and had, although it was minimal, involvement in the offense.
He did look better this year. He did.
And I'm sure there's fans out there right now that are horribly offended, and they're sitting there clutching their pearls like, what? Of course we have a chance to win the Super Bowl. There has to be some level of realism when you look at and you look at the reason players aren't coming here. And that's why I really don't take that much offense to the first part of Ben's, especially it's a dose of reality that I think we need, that I'm hoping the people in the franchise listen to, because they're acting like we're the same Steelers from a decade ago. And
have you ever heard anybody say, we've heard people say, I don't want to go to the Browns. Do you know what I mean? Or, I don't want to go to that team. I don't know that we've ever really heard somebody say the Steelers called, and I was like, hell no.
I think as long as Tomlin's here, because he's the draw, for a lot of players, he's a draw. But I think even that, we saw this offseason, people are taking shots at Tomlin now. I don't know how much longer they can depend on.
It sounds so salty, and I don't know why. This feels like a new thing. It makes me wonder, did he try to call the organization and do something with them, and they shut him down? He just sounds so salty the past few months.
He's frustrated like the rest of us. He's watched Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky and Russell Wilson, and how bad the offense is played. He must be so frustrated being such a good quarterback and watching this garbage he's watched with the rest of us for the last 3 years.
But to go back and criticize old stuff, do you know what I mean? That used to be kind of sacred. He didn't really ever shit on the stuff that happened when he was there a whole lot.
And don't underestimate, he's on a podcast now. He wants to get clicks and likes and downloads. So, sometimes you got to be controversial.
And he knows he's going to get talked about. He just knows it.
Yeah.
Well, and in fairness to Ben, especially probably the last third of his career, he was not shy about putting things out there and saying things about his teammates when he didn't like what was going on. So, it's hard to say, he just started that. No, he's actually been doing it for a while. Passive-aggressive Ben is a real thing. He just does it the way where he can kind of say, oh, wait a minute, I didn't mean that.
Right. All right. Well, let's shift focus and talk a little bit, as we talked about Ben, shift to talk about our current quarterback situation and where we stand. So rumor kind of came out this week that apparently the Steelers have flip-flopped, and now Art Rooney really wants to keep Russell Wilson, and Mike Tomlin is hot for Justin Fields. And according to Mark Caballi, Omar Khan only has a 10% say. So I thought that was interesting. I was saying to you guys, we were before the show started, that during the season, Mike Tomlin went all Lone Ranger despite everybody else's desires and sat Justin Fields down to play Russell Wilson. So I think it's interesting now. When I heard that, I thought I must have heard that wrong. I rewound and listened to it again thought my brain flip flopped it, and yeah, I was surprised. What
I
did
think
you
he
guys
got
think of that?
he got his fill of Russell Wilson and said, "Oh, I don't want any more of that." I think that might have something to do with the friction we heard between him and the offensive coordinator. That maybe he put up with that for 6 or 8 weeks, and he's like, "I'm not going through that anymore."
That's possible.
Arthur Smith doesn't like him, so let's move on. And I have no idea what Art Rooney, why he likes Russell Wilson so much. I don't know what the hell he saw down the stretch of the last 5-6 weeks that he thinks Russell Wilson should be the quarterback in 25. I don't get it.
Well, it does line up with what Rooney's apparently tried to do this offseason, which is not help anything by talking.
Or just
Absolutely.
confuses us more.
It's so frustrating because everything he says, I'm like, you didn't have to. We would have all been better off if you just wouldn't have done the thing. And then he does the thing.
Well, I like I said a while back, like it just feels like I'd love to be a fly on that wall in that room. Because if you got Rooney wanting Wilson, if you got Tomlin wanting Rodgers, if you got Arthur Smith wanting Fields, and then you got White on Marcon going, hello, can we go get somebody else? Like I can't even imagine.
No say. They have a 10% say in it.
And that's the first time I'm hearing this, Leanne, that he's only got 10% say.
And I don't
10%, and you're the GM.
Well,
listen, you know my stance on this.
Opinion, yeah.
Right.
Mike Tomlin's in control.
If
it's true. It's
that's
true.
Crazy. 10% for a GM.
Mike Tomlin runs that organization. We all know it.
So how much
I'm sure
Colbert have then? How much do you think Colbert had?
I think it dwindled over the years.
Yeah.
I think it started out, he had a lot. And as Mike Tomlin's, got more and more power on the team, I think it dwindled down.
I think it's like my marriage. I think Art lets Mike make all the decisions. But when he feels really strongly about something, he puts his foot down, and his word is the law.
Well, I could tell you if it's really at odds.
Storm's coming.
If Art and Mike Tomlin are starting to part ways. Now, they've disagreed before in the past. We know that Tomlin didn't really want Ben to come back that last year. Art made the call to let him come back for the pay cut. So, if there was really friction, you can maybe kind of hope Omar Khan, if they do it the way they do it, is the deciding vote. But this is anti-Steelers. This is Mike Florio talks about this all the time. The Steelers never take any credit, so there's never anybody to blame. But now it's coming out. If you want this and I want this and I'm the Lone Ranger and I picked so-and-so, but now I don't want so-and-so because I was a Lone Ranger and I was wrong behind closed doors. If this is really getting to a point where they're going to start butting heads, one of them's got to step away. One guy's 74 years old and seems to be completely out of touch with the reality of Steelers football, which is sad because he's the owner. And the other guy is playing football like it's the 1990s. So, I don't know.
Both need to step away.
It's not great for the fan base either way, but whoever wins, maybe the next guy will be the change we need.
Yeah. So Vaughn brings up all the comments about the no middle of the field stuff and wants to know what the actual fuck are they doing over there. I can say the word even if Vaughn can't.
Yeah.
It's depressing. It's not good. It's not that you can't play football like this. And Mike Tomlin's got to understand you cannot play risk-averse football and expect to win. It's not going to work.
Then we have to stop all the comments about how it's because Russ is short, right? It clearly isn't about Russ's height.
It might have to do with both.
That's the reason, because we weren't doing it with Justin Fields.
That might
we did it with Kenny Pickett.
The move to Wilson didn't really phase that part of Mike Tomlin. It's like, I don't want to throw over the middle of the field anyway, so I don't really care if that's the strength of his or not.
Let me interject one thing real quick to interrupt you, Zach. In fairness to Tomlin, who it's terrible what he said, but in fairness to Tomlin, maybe the reason he loved Russell Wilson so much is for his entire career, Russell Wilson hasn't thrown the ball over the middle of the field. Maybe that's why Tomlin loves him.
Maybe.
But now Tomlin doesn't want him anymore.
Yeah, I know. So apparently he doesn't want him.
I got an important question since this is State of the QBs. Is Skylar Thompson going to be the number 3 guy? I'm dying to know what you guys think.
No, he's going to be the number 1.
Oof.
No, I think he's going to be the number 3. I don't think they would have signed him
and
and gone through the trouble if he wasn't going to be.
Okay. I've lost
hopefully
sleep
not
over
any
this,
more than that.
so.
Hopefully not higher than that. And we're in deep shit if he's number 2 and number 1.
I mean, if we fuck around like we did with the wide receiver room, we could wind up with him as the number 2 or something. Like we can't.
Leanne,
Well,
that's my biggest fear.
Yep.
That's my biggest fear.
It really
And
worries me.
And there's a report the Jets are interested in Fields and are going to pay him 10 to 15 mil per.
Yeah,
I heard
he's going to make a lot of money. He's going to make some money. People are lowballing that number.
It literally
And
mirrors
spot
what you
track
said,
is
Bob.
way off.
It
The one
literally
thing that
mirrors
gave
what you
me
said.
hope was that somebody said yesterday, I can't remember if I think it was Cavalli, maybe Fittipaldo, that the one thing that Fields has to be careful about is not to get like too greedy in free agency, because it doesn't benefit quarterbacks to keep starting over again. Do you know what I mean? And so for him to have never really had like a, not even a Tom Brady season, but even like a Drew Brees season or something, to then keep going to team to team to team, and he has to keep starting over. He's already had like 4 different offensive coordinators or something. So, at some point, does it benefit him to just stay in Pittsburgh, where he can work out a reasonable deal with them and at least feel like, well, I had some success here last year. They're going to get me some weapons. I know the offense.
Money talks. Money talks.
Yeah, not to mention the fact, okay, I could stay with Arthur Smith, who I think he likes. Or
yeah,
I can go work with Tanner Engstrand, who studied under Ben Johnson for the last couple of years. Where might I have more success?
I don't know, though, because I think there's other factors that come into it. I just think there's other factors that come into play.
Fields said that he doesn't want to keep having to learn a new playbook.
Right.
He did say that. So he said it out loud. It could be
I know I brought it up.
Talk, but
do you guys agree with this, that he's going to be a career backup? He's not good. I don't know why y'all were so high on him. I'm not high on him. Our options are very limited. So out of the 4 options we have, he may be like the best of the bad choices.
I'll say this. Go ahead.
I was going to say he's got to choose wisely. He's got to choose wisely. If he stays, honestly, if I was him, I don't know that I would stay in Pittsburgh, because I can go play with my college teammate Garrett Wilson, who's better than any receiver we got right now, and I get to play with a Ben Johnson, Ben Johnson disciple. So, yeah, do I think it would work if he stays here? Yeah, I think Arthur Smith loves him, and that's what we got to hope for. But let's face it, this is where quarterbacks go to die. If you ain't named Terry Bradshaw and you ain't named Ben Roethlisberger, you are not going to have a great career in Pittsburgh till we find the third guy in this list.
That might be true, but I disagree with the first part of your statement, because I think that you look at other teams and they're very quick to move off of people. Do you know what I mean? They might give you a year, maybe you get a year and a half, and if you're not successful, they're going to be quick to move off of you. I think Fields might feel like if he's fairly successful in Pittsburgh, you know what I mean? Look, you don't even have to win playoff games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Record.
Yeah. Talk about quick to move off. They moved off them after 6 games.
Yeah, there we go.
That's different. He wasn't ever, to me, it's different because he wasn't ever supposed to be the starting quarterback. I think Mike Tomlin had some image in his mind. I don't know that Justin Fields could have done anything that would have trumped that. Who knows? Maybe he felt like he made a promise to Wilson. I don't know.
And
he had something, a bee in his bonnet about Wilson.
And to the question about backup rest away, no, because of the weak draft class and the weak free agency class right now that you could pick from. He's numbered top 2 right already. And so somebody's going to want him to be their bridge quarterback at worst, or hope that he did learn some things here. Doubtful, but we'll see. But that's the way I look at it. Only because of that fact. It's a weak draft class, and 2, there's not a lot of good free agents out there. He's the kind of guy where he would definitely be you're hoping maybe he's learned things, or he's just your bridge quarterback till 2026.
He wants to be a starter. I think he's going to go wherever he feels like he has the best chance to start.
And stay a starter, because if he goes to I was going to say, if he goes to the Jets, who's competing with him? Go ahead, Zach.
Nobody.
For now.
Here either.
I've been saying it since, I think I said it in the previous, ever since way back in the podcast, that I really hope whoever's around Justin Fields reminds him that he doesn't do well in savior situations. So if he's going to go to another place, if he's going to chase money in a place where you're going to have a system around you. You don't do well when you're relied upon to be to command the offense. That's not what we're going to ask of you here. I don't know how the Jets are going to do it, but if I was in Justin Fields' support, I would say let's look around what they're going to put around you and see if that's a place where you can succeed. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of money and you're going to be miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
so
at the end
any
of the
other
day,
quarterbacks out there that you think are viable?
One
Go
thing
ahead,
one thing I just want to say real quick. This whole idea of Justin Fields, he needs to stay in a system. This system, I don't know. I'm sorry. For the first time in a long time, I'm looking at it saying, if I'm an offensive player, I'm leaving. I'm as quickly as I can get out of town.
I've been
I'm
saying
going.
it for a while. I've been saying it for a while.
Yeah, I don't think they will, but maybe. I mean, there's only so many places you can go, especially if you're a quarterback.
What
And
about
even
Daniel
then,
Jones? We
like,
haven't talked about Daniel Jones at all. He's
good.
an
Yeah.
option. I mean, we can't rule him out.
I think that is the height of what you could describe him as to me. He is an option. That's the
rule out.
I'm willing to go to.
Well, whoever's going to be quarterback in 2025 is most likely not going to be the quarterback in 2026 for the Steelers. This is going to be stopgap.
Yeah, agreed.
Unless they get really, really lucky.
Yeah.
We're going to be on quarterback 6 in 6 years by next year. I mean, it's almost a done deal. Unless
Najee Harris has played with 6 in his career in Pittsburgh. I mean, that's sad.
They have mismanaged this position
for this quarterback
since Ben retired. They should have never, ever drafted Kenny Pickett. That set them back years because they had to put so much resources. This is a first-round pick, and it was a disaster. And it set them back. And you hear it from other people. If you miss your first-round pick at quarterback, it sets you back 5 years. And we're on that trajectory.
Yeah. Yep.
It's huge.
What do you guys think of the Pickens saying that Rodgers is his dream teammate, and then you see Deshaun Elliott with a picture with Rodgers?
Do we know for sure that Pickens said that?
Yeah, I watched it.
Do we know for sure when he said it?
It was last year, before last.
I thought so.
Yeah, it wasn't this recently. It was a year ago.
So this was a year ago. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was a year ago.
I thought I saw somebody say it was
the
old.
Deshaun Elliott stuff surprised me more.
No, is that recent? That picture? Like I didn't see that coming.
If that's recent, then Deshaun Elliott needs to shut the hell up and never talk again because he's a hypocrite.
Yeah, that made no sense.
That's why he's made some other stupid ass comments.
Right, but like, why would you ever? I don't know.
Well, it sounds like he ran into him, didn't realize they were going to be rehabbing at the same place. Aaron called him out on it, and he's like, "Wait, no, we can fix this." And he's like, "I'll make a post." That's to me what it sounded like, which doesn't help him at all. I don't.
Aaron said, "Come here, we're going to be teammates in a few months. We got to make nice."
They run into him somewhere. I mean, look, players from other teams get together and work out all the time and run into each other and have the same therapists and orthopedic surgeons and everything else. So if he really did Bob, we were talking about Elliott and Rodgers. If they really did just run into each other, then I don't know. That doesn't seem like.
Did you pose for a selfie with him? I mean,
Dean Bishop was like starstruck. I mean, he FedExed his balls to him to get him autographed, and somebody else to help him. And he was so excited. So I mean, he is he's a Hall of Fame player.
He's a legend. Yeah,
he's a legend. So maybe he felt some kind of way about running into him. It used to happen to Tom Brady too.
So they'd be happy if Uncle Aaron comes. That's what I knew it's coming. That's why I said it. I knew it.
Guys. I think if you want to rank the percentage of who's going to be quarterback in 2020, you got to put Aaron Rodgers near the top. He's as likely as anybody.
I will say this: if we have to pay next to nothing for him, and if it is an absolute assurance that we have
Zach's
1
cracking.
year of this,
I know.
No,
I was like, whoa,
Zach's cracking. Come on over to the dark side, buddy.
The moment before we drafted Kenny Pickett, I turned to my wife and I said, the worst possible thing we could do in this moment is draft Kenny Pickett, and if we do, I'm going to be really mad for a bit, and then I'm going to have to find a way to convince myself why I should watch Steeler games again. That's what this is. It's saying if I have to do that, then I need parameters. I need to know I'm only putting up with him for a year, and I need to know that we are paying nothing for him because you don't mortgage anything for the quarterback position this year. I would rather have Kyle Allen than someone we have to pay a lot for or mortgage anything for.
Rodgers is going to want
year to do it.
What do you think Rodgers is going to want, though? Is he going to want a lot of money?
I think they're going to have to pay him 50.
I think he's going to want a fair amount.
15 to 20, I think, if I had to spitball it. But that's half of what going quarter. That's not less than half of that's backup money almost. So
Yeah, I mean,
you can't
if he
stop at
wants-
15 to 20.
If 15 gets it done, damn. Yeah, I mean, they still can make a lot of moves.
Gary brought up
15.
Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I was going to ask
he's
you
gonna
about that in another comment that's up here.
he's gonna cost a fortune. He's
I
gonna
just
cost a lot of money.
I don't
He's
trust
way
it with him.
overinflated.
I don't trust it with him.
Yeah, I
I
don't
think
either.
he was in a really good system with really good wide receivers and had
There
a
you go.
good running back. I don't know, man. I'm not. This guy was a turnip before he went to that team.
We would see the worst side of Darnold if we took him. We don't have the
This is not a good
system and
spot for him.
the coaches
It's
that
not a good spot.
Darnold needs to make him look good.
I agree with that.
Darnold needs that system to make him look good. We don't have that.
Let
I
me
just
ask
the
you
real
guys about this.
Look, he could throw that halfback toss better than most people in the free agent.
Mr. Tummy said Ben helped to mismanage the quarterback position.
He did it a little bit.
Ooh.
He did a little bit. He did a little bit.
100%.
You know what? I wholly disagree with that. Since when is it the starting quarterback's
Favoritism
job?
is killing suddenly.
Yeah, when is when is it the starting quarterback's job to manage his progression off the team?
Yep, you're right about that.
Yeah,
don't you have a responsibility to kind of help train, like work with the next guy? I mean,
I
don't
thought that
you?
was the
in
Stiller way.
professional sports.
I thought that was the
No,
Stiller
I
way.
I don't think that's up to on Ben to do that. I don't.
Oh, they talked about that stuff too. The
Yep.
Stiller way was the
Yeah,
guy that you're
Well,
going to be moving
that's what
on.
Ben's big complaint was.
Yeah,
That's
so
only
like,
when it's convenient for Ben, though. That's not.
well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
I don't want to bring it up, guys.
They drafted Mason. He's bitching the next day. I don't know why
Yeah.
they did that.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
No.
And then
What the
you
yeah.
talk to him.
It's not.
But Mason
unique
was
to
never
Ben.
against it, no matter what.
Yeah,
And-
I'll put it this way, Bob. He didn't have to say that. He didn't have to put stuff out there that made it look the way it did. And then he didn't do anything with Mason. I mean, he didn't even welcome the kid. Like there was just no need for that. Because to me, Mason wasn't really a threat, to be honest.
No, never was a threat.
A third round pick, right? Third round, I can't remember. It just to me, there was just no need for Ben to be like that. However, when they did take Mason, I was just like, okay, I kind of get the point where they could have got another playmaker or something like that. But wasn't that the draft where they got the wide receiver that Mason played with too?
Yeah.
Washington.
James Washington.
James
Yeah.
Washington, who was a
I-
dud,
so-
too.
But real quick, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers,
Also an asshole.
Joe Montana. Remember,
Shock-
Joe Montana
shock
was
man.
not out over there going to Steve
Look,
Young.
we
Hey,
got
man, you
things in
should take
common
my
here.
job.
We got things in common here. Giant assholes hunt. Do some unethical things. You got Ben Roethlisberger, Brett Favre.
Yeah, but it's every quarterback.
What's
It's
wrong
not
with
just
Joe Montana.
Tom Brady. Tom Brady treated what's his name
That's
like
a
shit
good-
too.
That's a good question. Like the whole Montana Young, I don't. Did they not get along or something? I
Oh,
don't know.
not at
I'm just
all.
asking.
Not at all.
No. Okay.
And I get that that's going to happen some, but I do feel like, and maybe it's just me and I'm that kind of team player person, but football is a team sport. And Ben Roethlisberger was somebody that even at the point when they drafted Mason Rudolph went down with some injuries. Do you know what I mean? And if I'm Ben, I want somebody ready to go in for me so that they can handle stuff while I get healthy real fast and then come back and win us a Super Bowl or a playoff game or whatever. I just feel like you have some responsibility in a team sport not to be a total asshole.
Well,
It's tough.
When did Charlie Batch retire? When did that happen? How long was Ben was that crossover for? 'Cause to
20.
me, Charlie Batch.
But
15?
you know the thing about Charlie
What
Batch
it
was
He
came
was
in
a
and-
consummate backup. He was.
yeah.
It was
He
wonderful.
came in when Ben was younger and he was never a threat. So
Yeah. And he was always kind of like the old uncle.
that was an easy one for Ben to get along with. That was
And remember, though, in fairness, Ben and Dennis Dixon got along very well. He always thinks
Again,
very highly of Dennis Dixon.
never a threat to him.
Right. And Byron Leftwich, who was kind of a threat, but I mean,
maybe a
we
little
knew who
bit,
the
yeah.
starter was.
Mason. No threat.
But,
yeah,
but again, it's unique to Mason. Ben didn't
he
get
took
along with
the,
Mason.
Ben took that Mason draft pick personally.
He
Yeah.
did.
Like, oh, you drafted my successor.
Yeah.
Third round pick.
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
what it seems like. It seems like there was something
He took
different
that one
about
personally.
Mason.
Nothing against Mason, but there was
Yeah.
rumors he was kind of like that with other people. If he wasn't like, your buddy, then he didn't really have a lot of time for you. He
And for the record,
I've heard that.
and even
my man
even
Kevin
back then,
Colbert wanted to trade him before the last year of his and he got shot down by
Oh yeah.
Mike Tomlin and Rooney.
That's probably when he had only a 10% say.
Yeah, that's when his thing went down to. Because Roethlisberger said that in one of his interviews or his podcast. He said, and he's still mad at Colbert about it. He's like, yeah, Colbert wanted to get rid of me, but Tomlin and Rooney didn't want to. So
I don't think Ben wants to be on a network, to John's point. I don't think that that's something he was ever interested in doing. I mean, who knows? Maybe I'm way off base.
He had a shot.
I don't think so.
No,
I think he likes drinking beer in his basement and having some guy cook him wings and stuff.
yeah.
He's been very clear, at least until his kids grow up.
Yeah.
He's got $100 million plus in the bank. He's only interested in being his son's football coach,
golf coach,
and sitting in
Yep.
and enjoying his family.
No, I respect that.
Yeah. Hey,
So if we got anywhere on this quarterback situation, we still have no idea. None.
No,
and
it's
we're going to be
like-
talking
like-
about this for weeks and weeks.
It's like I said
Dalton.
Monday.
Andy
Dalton got signed. He's out.
He's done.
He's
He's
out.
done.
I will
He
say
got signed,
this,
he got signed by the Panthers. You got to take him off the list.
I will say this. Somebody said today that we should have some kind of an answer by the end of next week, like as combine stuff kicks off on at least Russell and Justin.
Yeah, I
thought
guess
that,
maybe.
I'm like, okay, well, that makes me feel a little better.
Well,
Oh.
just to say, embrace the horror. What if Fields walks? What if Aaron Rodgers says nope? And what if Danny Dimes says, "Are you fucking kidding?"
And Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson.
No, I don't think they'll do that either. I think then we're looking at a Marcus Mariota,
Oh,
Skylar
Jesus.
Thompson kind
No.
of deal.
I think they bring Russell Wilson back before they.
Yeah,
He's the break glass in
I
case of
would rather
emergency
have
guy.
Russell Wilson
Because
than
no
that.
one's going to sign him. No one's going to sign him.
Why? I mean, if he does come back now, it's public that my offensive coordinator hates me. I
Yeah.
don't throw the ball over the middle, but my head coach is okay with that, and everybody thinks I'm a fake kind of guy. So
I don't think everybody thinks that. I think he actually won people in Pittsburgh over for the most part.
Well,
I think he won people over. They may not love what he did on the field, but I do think, like, personally, he changed a lot.
well, that
of
guy was at the Children's Hospital.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff
I'm
for
sure
sure.
he's
You
I don't
can't-
think he's a bad dude. I mean,
No.
he's a good politician, but he's also just a good dude to go
I
spend
think
that
he's
much
just
time
a
in
good
Children's
dude,
Hospital.
and I think
We're
he
not-
comes across a little swarmy.
we're not talking about working the community. We're talking about his teammates and
Yeah. I
and
mean-
the toxic positivity that guys like Kaboli who are around the team say that he portrays. There is a look, you can be Mr. Positive, but when you're Mr. Positive and it doesn't relate to anything that's going on, then people start to give you the side eye. They started giving him the side eye. I mean, let's face it, we all saw Hard Knocks. It looked like Cam Hayward wanted to fucking kill him when they were walking off the field.
No, I
I
get what
remember
you're
that part.
saying. That's the big thing. To be a leader, you have to be good. Like, you've got to do really well from that standpoint, Bob. I
You
get
gotta
what
put
you're
your money
saying.
where your mouth is. Do you know what I mean? If
Yeah.
you're not performing, then you can't.
He's right. The look Cam gave
him.
him was
Yeah.
like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like,
To Relic's
it was
point,
To be fair, I
He-
look at people like that a lot, and it doesn't have anything to do with what comes out of their mouth. Okay, before we would keep talking about the quarterbacks, because we're going to have to talk about it every show till
probably,
forever.
yeah.
There's rumors floating around that the Steelers may be interested in Nick Chubb. So once you stop trying to hang yourself from your closet rod, what were your thoughts about it?
I wouldn't. It would be a strange move because I think he would be expensive. He
No,
would
he's not gonna
cost
be
more than Najee would. Really, I
coming off a knee injury.
For us, he would be. I think for us, he would be. I
don't
think
think so.
for some reason, him
Steelers
coming here,
premium?
seeing how we don't know how to use running backs the right way. That's just how I feel. If he came here, he would be doing it for Tomlin and the money. That's how
No,
we would have to pay him.
I think he's looking for a 1-year deal to show that his knee's healthy, and then he's going to go back into free agency a year from now and cash in. I think he's just looking for,
Steelers don't like 1-year deals.
yeah.
That-
So that's
that
why
wouldn't
they
make
probably
sense
won't
for
sign
us
him.
at all.
But
He,
they sure as
I
hell don't
watched
like
so
long-term
many
deals
running
either.
backs in the draft.
I
So many running
I
backs.
wouldn't-
I feel like
at
that's
first
what
I thought-
and not.
I liked it at first, but then I'm like, yeah, probably not. I mean, I don't even know if he's fully recovered from that knee.
yeah, that's the thing. He didn't
A lot
look
of miles
that great
on him.
last year. He did not.
Yeah.
He did. His cutbacks didn't look great.
Yeah.
His burst was not there like it usually
The Browns
is.
kind of ruined him.
There was a lot of like he actually did look like he didn't look the same. Like I mean,
He should have sat out the whole year. There was no reason.
Yeah.
for
I
him
think
to
you're
come
right.
back. He wasn't
He
ready.
probably should have.
I think you're right.
Barry thinks he
And that's-
comes for less than Najee.
I think he will.
think
I
that's
really
good.
do.
I think Chubb's a great guy. It is definitely not there's no knock coming for me on him as like a human being.
Again,
Brown steak all over him.
and here's my thing: like they're able to do all of this. They can get a free agent, keep one of Warner, Najee, and draft somebody. Like do all three. Fuck it.
Yeah, but if you sign Nick Chubb, he wants to start. He's
Well,
not.
If you give him a shot, if he sucks, then you go to whoever the next guy is, whether it be Warren, Najee, whoever, or the drafted running back.
That's fair.
If he doesn't have it, he doesn't have it.
If it was anybody but Tomlin coaching the team, I would 100% agree with you. Just give him a shot if he's willing to sign for cheap. But I'm sorry, if he gets on the roster, Tomlin's gonna waste 10 games handing them the ball 20 times.
I think Bob. I know.
I think it's a
they
valid
take a
point.
while to make different decisions.
Yeah.
You are correct.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else in the free agency market for running backs that you think is even worth considering, given that the draft is so
Don't say it.
You already know who I like.
Dave's
I'm just softballing this to you, Dave. Just lobbing it right to you, David. Go ahead.
I'm done. I've said my piece. I'm good.
For those just joining us, David loves J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah.
There we go. And
Yeah,
I have no
Cross
problem
Blue
with
Shield.
that.
Show. At
I
least
have
once
no
or so I
problem
try
with
to
that.
I don't
leave David
I don't
in.
have a figurine of the guy to float across the screen, but
I
yeah,
think
I don't-
it's a Dobbins bobblehead.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you.
Full disclosure, David owns stock in Blue Cross Blue Shields. That's why he loves J.K. Dobbins.
Oh,
I'm with you,
goodness.
Leon. I want a draft
Talk a
pick.
little bit about the cap. The Steelers cap. They found out today about the increase. I don't remember the exact amount. Bob, do you remember? You're good with numbers.
I
They have
think it
60
was.
million, right?
60 million.
In cap
I know they
space right
raised
now.
it to between 277 and 283.
Yeah,
So,
they're thinking about 60 million as we speak without any more cuts, which they're probably going to make a couple more. So
And that's the other
What-
thing. They can just make upgrades at positions where guys have not done well. Like,
Yes.
you know, it's,
say Amalu.
well, no, and that's to your point. Like, if they're not, and they don't think McCormick's the guy either, like, you know,
Yeah.
they're not really sure they want to depend on him either, which I thought he did good for his rookie season. I'm just saying, like, they can go get a guy to plug into that offensive line to help it. They
I
got
think
the money.
Murray hit the nail on the head here.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well,
not Hayward. We just did his, but TJ.
Yep. TJ. That we could free up.
And that might save money.
with TJ.
That might save them money this season too under the cap. But
You really think TJ's going to take more than 2 or 3 million less?
It's hard to tell.
no, but they can structure it where the first year is low and then the corresponding years are higher.
It
That's what
seems
they
like
usually do.
they always restructure with TJ and Cam. Is that just me, or does it seem like they always do that?
Well,
with
those are the big
I
highest
don't
paid
think they
players. So
Contracts.
Yeah, I don't think they've restructured TJ at all, though.
they
I
did
thought
one
they
time.
did. Yeah, they did.
They did one time. Not recently, but they did.
Yeah, it was a couple years
ago,
back.
right? Like 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
They did, I thought. So who do you think we're looking at as a cap casualty here?
Mm.
Well, it's
There's-
Ogunjobi right off the bat, right?
Number one.
I mean,
And possibly Holcomb.
I'm-
Holcomb will save you
Ogunjobi.
6
I'm
million.
going to say it, but I mean, you got to, right? I mean, unless they know for sure that like he's in such good physical shape, but that's a big cap hit for somebody who hasn't played. Like we did the charity thing for a year.
Well, that's the thing with Ogunjobi. He's the 7th highest cap hit on the team. So you're not getting anything out of him, really. He hasn't. I haven't been impressed with him. And
Wait,
then
on
Some
the
people
whole-
have floated.
Cole
Mike
Holcomb,
Williams?
9th highest cap hit.
Isn't he a pretty big one, like 10 million?
Which
Who
one?
is it?
Mike Williams.
Oh, he's gone. I think he's a
Yeah,
free agent, right?
Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah, that never.
He's gone.
I'm going to float a name. A lot of people are going to hate this, but I'm telling you it's a real possibility. Minka. They're paying Minka way too much for what he's doing.
They
If
might
he's not willing to
reach-
take a pay cut, watch. That could blow. That could really blow up.
The only thing I
Man.
can see is they possibly trade him. They're not going to cut him or ask him to restructure because he's not going to take a pay cut. He's not gonna do it.
Fittipaldo said he's untradeable because of his contract.
He's absolutely untradeable.
Possible.
Wow.
It's possible.
But because of the
I-
contract, yeah. If they
I
could
think
restructure him,
with-
they might.
At
I think
best,
within
a
the
restructure.
franchise- Yeah, I think within the franchise, I'm not saying he's fully untouchable, but I think the franchise kind of sees him as one of those people we don't broach that subject with. Like unless an emergency bell happened, like unless we found baggage or something in his locker before he did, then we But other than that, no.
And that lineman that sucks at right tackle. Did you
Right.
see that?
And that guy.
That guy. Roger Jones. Mm.
Yeah, they're paying like $3 million a year. They
Yeah,
never touch that.
Yeah, it's fine.
That,
He's-
that,
I think
that's
he
the
means
thing, 'cause
Dan Moore.
Yeah, I went through all
Yeah.
the,
Oh,
the,
he's
the,
gone.
the cap hits. Other than the guys, we have Preston Smith was a big one, but other than Ogunjobi and Holcomb, is there anybody on there that you guys saw?
I
'Cause
got
didn't
one.
see anybody.
I got one. It's not a big cap hit, but Montravis Adams is $3.1 million. And the thing about that is he had a
$1 he needs to go.
well, it's 3 point yeah. So so his grade was a 48.2. His defensive run defense, his grade out is 34, guys. That's how bad he was against the run. A
He had to be like one of the
34 grade.
lowest in the league. That's
Yeah.
terrible.
He ranked 204 out of 219 defensive linemen.
Oh my god!
I would do-
and there are plenty of defensive linemen in this draft.
I'm just saying,
you could find another one. You
the
could find
writing's
another
on. Well,
Montravius
and
Adams.
this is what makes me think maybe they will draft a couple D linemen because they're going to cut Ogunjobi because he ain't getting paid that money. And then Montravis Adams was horrible. Like, so I don't know. You cut those two, that's what, 13, 14 million you save right there?
I think Seumalo's making way more money than he's worth. I would cut him. You could save $8 million cutting him. You could put that towards an actually good guard. I know I keep saying it,
I
and
wonder
beating the
if
drum,
he's
but
really,
Yeah,
like, I keep
There's
going
no good
back and
guards out
watching-
there to get, Dave. There's
Yeah,
just
there's a
not.
few.
and
Oh, there's a
watching,
few.
And it seems like a lot of times, like he's making up for other people. Like he's made to look bad by what's going on around him.
I do worry.
But
I
I'm
do
not
worry
like an
about that.
offensive line expert. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I watch
No.
it, and like, from what I understand and what I see, I feel like there's times where it's not always on him.
Was he the second highest graded offensive lineman on our team behind Frazier?
Well, it's
What
not
was
saying
his-
much.
I'm asking
you've got-
true.
When you've got
Well, what was his
the
grade? though?
twin
Was he-
tackles there that don't
right.
do anything.
I'm just
And
saying, like, what was his? Was he graded out as doing well? Is my
Seumalo,
question? Yeah, like I did notice this year he had more penalties. He did probably give up more sacks. I did notice that.
I didn't
But
think he was
to
as good
Leanne's
this
point,
year.
was he trying to overdo stuff because of who?
I just don't think he's
So-
that good. I mean, he's over 30 now, right?
Yeah,
So
he's old. I mean, he's getting old.
old.
Yeah.
He was a 67
Look,
grade.
look, I'm not against them going and getting a guy. I'm not against that at all.
That's the thing.
Not against that.
We cannot Deontay Johnson it this season. Don't get rid of anybody you don't have an absolute concrete A, B, C, D, E.
Well-
You got to go down to double Z's to make me trust.
You got
that
60
can
million in
do
cap
that.
space. You got to spend it on somebody.
But that's
there's
what
no
I'm
wide-
talking
They don't. That's
about
the thing.
with the
They-
defensive
okay,
line.
hold-
In there
Let
and say,
all
look,
these
how
guys
much money we
go.
have.
And we're off.
Hold on, we don't have 60 million in cap space. I want to make it real clear to everybody.
Right.
When you sign the quarterback, whoever it's going to be, you have probably about 40 million in cap space. And if you want to go get it, the only guard who's top of the market in free agency is Trey Smith, who probably will re-sign with Kansas City. Didn't
No, I
look
don't
that
think they are
great in
gonna
the
re-sign
Super
him.
Bowl. Didn't look that great in the Super Bowl, but you're going to have to pay the top guard $20 million. Let me keep Isaac for 8. I mean, or
No, it's 8 savings. They're actually paying him under the cap like 15.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Or you go pay a lot more and eat up half of your remaining cap space for a guard. I don't know.
What's the most important? You need to fix this offensive line. It's been terrible for 4 years. Go get Mekhi Becton. He's not going to cost you $20 million a season. He balled out for the Eagles this year.
So Seumalo, he graded out at 67.6.
Yeah.
63 pass blocking grade and a 69.7 run block grade.
Very, very average
So,
for a guy who's making
average.
$15 million a season.
Yeah.
But average is better than sucking, though. I mean, we could say he didn't suck at least.
I'm saying upgrade the position in free agency. Don't
Yeah.
just.
He's 31 years old, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
mean,
a chicken and the egg thing, though, and this is what I keep going back to with him. Did he look better on the Eagles' offensive line because he was surrounded by better players?
Yes.
Sort of like Broderick Jones looked better
Yes.
in Georgia with the Georgia guys around him than he looks in Pittsburgh.
yeah.
And then now he's in Pittsburgh with guys who aren't great. And so is it then that he's compensating for them, which makes him look worse, or is it that he's not as good and he can't hide behind them?
I think
It actually falls perfectly into both, I think, because my timeline for Seumalo, it is right on track. We got him, massive upgrade, best offensive lineman we have. By this point, I wanted him to not be that anymore, which meant that we were progressing the way I wanted us to. So I don't mind that, but I remember watching in the beginning of the season because he definitely fell off towards the end. I just felt so frustrated for the dude. Half of the plays, he's looking around at everyone else and then doing his. He was playing every position as well as his own because of the fractiousness we had going on. But
you could bring Anthony Munoz in here as long as Pat Meyer is is coaching the offensive lineman. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't.
Well, if you upgrade that position, and then so you're going to have 4 young guys and at least one, very good offensive lineman to anchor that line, because it's going to be, the 2 tackles that are question marks at best. You got McCormick, who's a second-year guy. You've got Frazier, a second-year guy. You need a leader.
I don't have a problem with them bringing up some backup plans. There's no doubt. Bring in some guys.
Yeah, let's be honest.
Starter.
Let's be honest. At this point, Zach Frazier is the leader of the offensive line, and it's going to be
second-year guy.
Yeah, but he's going to be for 10 years. I mean, they're all young. I mean, except for Sayamalu, you face. I mean, wide receiver, cornerback, safety, quarterback, running back, tight end. I mean, there's a whole long list as far as I'm concerned before we get to guard. I'm not saying it's a bad idea to progression draft it or bring somebody in to maybe compete with him, but I'm not going to go spend half my cap on a guard.
I don't think you'll have to spend half the cap. I mean, the way they do these contracts too, it's $20 million a year, but the first year is cheaper, then the second year is a little bit more expensive than third years. So there's a lot of. It won't be half the cap for a guard. I mean, unless you sign Trey Smith, and even him, I don't think he's going to get $20 million a season. He's not. Not like that.
Then it falls off the table. Will Freeze, he's okay.
Makai Becton, I'm telling you, there's your answer right there. He was excellent for the Eagles this year.
He was good at guard, but I mean, with that season, he's cheap. You think Howie Roseman's letting him get out of the building? I don't.
They're paying a lot of guys. They're really close to the cap. They're not going to be. They're losing. Yeah,
we'll see.
They're hurting.
Hey, we'll see. Maybe we get lucky. I don't know, but
yeah.
Or go get a corner, so you don't have to worry about the draft so much. You go get a corner. We looked at the wide receiver list up and down like 4 times. There's nobody.
Oh, it's bad. Yeah,
maybe Darius Slayton.
But there's multiple other positions they could try to upgrade or get backup plans or whatever. Absolutely.
The whole free agent list at all positions is bad.
Yeah, I agree. It's not very good.
DJ Reed is kind of okay, but honestly,
he's a pretty good corner.
Honestly, I can think of 4 corners in the draft I'd rather have than him.
Ooh, I don't know about that. You've got a lot of stock in Ravel, and we don't even know if he can play because of that knee. He's got to pass his medicals before.
That was a fluke non-contact injury. Everybody expects him to be able to run. If he's not good, but I love Jahdae Barron. I love the kid Amos from Mississippi. There's a lot of guys, and you could kind of make the argument the Notre Dame corner, although I don't love him personally.
That's an Omar Khan special, an injured guy.
Another thing, guys. Sign one, draft one. You can do both.
Probably.
They have the leeway to do both.
But you only have 4 premium picks. Yep. First, second, third, and fourth. You can't get them all.
4 dogs, 1 bone. I don't give a fuck. Fucking take them all. And whoever's the best,
you got to cross one position out in free agency. You can't because there's so many things they need. I'm just saying
they have the flexibility to do both. There's several positions where they could draft one and sign one.
They're going to have to for some. I mean, let's face it, they need to do both.
Yep.
You're not getting a T. Higgins, so you're going to have to get a Debo Samuel or somebody, and then
sounds like nobody's getting
T. Higgins. Huh?
Yeah. I was going to start to interrupt you. I was going to say, sounds like nobody's getting.
He stayed in Cincinnati.
No, unless we're going to do this, and what is it like? Sign him and trade him or whatever. But
which means he's not coming to Pittsburgh because they're not trading him to Pittsburgh.
No,
double franchise tag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, he's got to be so mad.
Well, if they end up paying him, that's all he wants is the money.
He'll be paid top 5 wide receiver money, so it'll be a nice paycheck.
He's not going to play on the tag. He's going to make them trade him or sign him for a long-term deal. I think he
went the thrill, though, of going out there and having that headline of his giant-ass 4-year contract he signed with somebody because he thinks he's worth more than anybody. He's really good,
They're saying Chase wants $40 million per.
He deserves it.
No. I'm just saying that's what I'm just saying that's a lot of money on top of Burrows. They're gonna.
Burrows demanding they keep everybody. I mean, but then you start writing some checks and stop buying Batmobiles or something.
$5 million more than Justin Jefferson? Nah. I mean, I think.
Well, it's the market, you know. He's
Yeah.
at least as good as Justin Jefferson, and he's signing 1 year later. So you
Yeah,
you know.
And
I
they're
could
always
see
gonna want more
36.
than
Yeah,
the
40.
final
No.
four. Yeah.
I think he's the best wide receiver in the league. I'd pay him 40 to come here.
There is a report out there the Steelers could go get Cortland Sutton.
That
Garrett-
I
comes
don't know
up.
why they trade him.
Please, God, no.
I don't know why they trade him. He's their best wide receiver, isn't he?
I think so.
On a
He
team
had a
full
pretty
of
good
old,
second half of the season.
yeah, on a team full of old, slow wide receivers, he's the oldest and slowest. I'll tell you that.
He's not old. He only got drafted like 3 years ago. Right?
A little older than that. He's a little older
27?
than 3.
He's not old.
He's not old, but
I
he's
thought he
older
was
than
like
3.
27.
He's been in the league longer than
27?
3 years. He's probably been in the league about 5 or 6, maybe.
I thought he was 28.
He's 30.
Oh, he's 30. Wow.
Yeah.
God damn.
29. Yeah. Oh, he is older than I thought.
Wow, I didn't know that either. I didn't think it was that old.
My bad.
He's the poor
bad.
man's version of Mike Williams, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think he's.
I think
solving-
that'd work out well then.
He won't have to
Well,
play
who-
much.
It's like the
Puts on
quarterback.
20
Who the hell's
pounds,
going to
might
play?
let him run the ball.
Yeah.
It's just like the quarterback all over again. Who's going to play wide receiver opposite George Pickens this year? Who?
Hopefully,
Devontae
someone.
Adams when Uncle Aaron comes to town.
Yeah, well, that's my plan. That's my hope.
Good luck.
All right,
Best.
guys. If you've tuned in tonight, we really appreciate you. It's been a fun show. If you're catching this after we've recorded, please drop some comments. Let us know what your thoughts are about Ben's comments, about the quarterback situation, about Tomlin and Rooney and wide receivers and everything else. Tell us what you think, Isaac Sayamalu. We want to hear from you. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. It definitely helps us out. Follow all of us on social media, as well as the Steelers Sanctuary page and the Steelers Sanctuary podcast page on Twitter, and let us know what you think. Have a good night, everyone.
What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to chase after them?
Oh. That's just what they'll be expecting us to do.
Probably worth the Google.